You should have put in a picture for the problem and a picture for the solution, and then just a one-sentence summary for both. If you didn't do that, pause this video now and go ahead and take care of that. I just wanted to touch on this word right here, Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia, the place we're talking about, is actually right here. Right here. So this is Saudi Arabia, this is Africa, specifically Egypt up here. Mesopotamia is right here. And if I don't know if you see these guys right here, but these are actually rivers that lead into the Red Sea, which is right here. So this is Mesopotamia, and this is considered the Fertile Crescent. And you can see crescent is like the crescent moon, which I have right here, a picture of a crescent moon, and then that's what it looks like in the area. So you can see here's Egypt, Africa, Saudi Arabia. This is where we're talking about with Mesopotamia, right where my mouse is, lower Iraq now. And it's called a crescent because you see it's a half circle. It's a little bit like a crescent moon. So I want to get into the text, but first let's take a look at this picture and tell me what you see. These are the ruins in the Syrian desert, and this is a Sumerian wall. So you can see right here, obviously erosion and time has done damage on this, but you can still see traces of what's left, and that's what archaeologists and everybody looks at when you go and you discover these places. So right now we're going to get into the text, and I'm going to be doing some reading and highlighting. Your job is to obviously follow along and highlight your text, which is in paper, and then you're going to be moving on to the next assignment. So I'm going to read, you just follow along. So here we go. So we have the rise of Sumerian city-states, and this is section 4.1. And I'm going to start reading for you. All right. So if you need a second, pause it, and then you can come back, but I'm going to go. So in chapter 3, you learned how people began farming and living in small villages during Neolithic times. Because of a stable food supply, everything was getting better for humans. In this chapter, you'll discover how some small villages grew into large, complex cities. These villages were located in a land of rolling hills and low plains called Mesopotamia. And I'm going to come over here. As you can see, my pointer is actually bigger now, so everybody can see it. And Mesopotamia is actually modern-day Iraq. And it means the land between two rivers. And I know I didn't read this yet, but I just wanted to highlight that. So it's actually, Mesopotamia is a Greek word that means the land between two rivers. And I pointed those two rivers out to you. So the two rivers are the Tigris River and the Euphrates River. Cities first appeared in the southern part of this land, an area called Sumer. So Mesopotamia is kind of the whole area of Iraq, and Sumer is the southern part, which is between the two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. I'm going to keep reading. The earliest cities in Sumer date back to about 3500 BCE, or before Common Era. These first cities were like small independent countries. So they each had their own ruler and their own farmland to provide food. For this reason, they're called city-states. So they're called city-states because the first, and we're going to highlight this, the first cities were like small independent countries where each of them had their own ruler and their own farmland. And that's called a city-state. So the same way America has a president, the same way England has a king, all of these independent little city-states were like their own countries with their own rulers. So imagine that you are visiting one of these early cities. You see a walled settlement surrounded by farmland that supplies food for the city, kind of like this picture down here. You have the farmland, and then you have the city. The strong city walls are built of sun-baked bricks, mainly mud. Moats or ditches filled with water surrounded the walls. You may have seen moats during any movies you might have seen with castles. The moats help keep out enemies. During an attack, people living outside the city walls fled inside the walls for protection. And as you gaze on the city, you may wonder how it came to be built. Why didn't people in Mesopotamia go on living in small villages as their ancestors had done for thousands of years? Why did large city-states grow up here in the land between two rivers? So in this chapter, you're going to find out how they became successful and grew. Let's take a second. Actually, no, we're going to pause the video right here, and you are actually, as long as you highlighted and you filled in the notes, you are done for the assignment for Section 1. So congratulations, you've made it through the first section. Give yourself a little pat on the back, and I'll see you next time.